Housing is more than just shelter, it is security, stability, and for many, the biggest investment of their lives. Yet in Nigeria, it is also one of the toughest challenges people face, from talk of a housing deficit running into the millions, to skyrocketing building costs, to the everyday struggle of renting or buying. The question keeps piling up. This is Market Square, your go-to show for deep insight into business and economic trends. I'm Alaito Adebayo, and today we are putting the spotlight on Nigerians' housing sector, the deficit debate, the affordability challenge, and what it really takes to own a home in today's economy. Stay with us. To help us make sense of all of this, I spoke with two people who see this reality up close. Franklin Adebayo, a real estate expert with years of experience in property markets, and Jacinta Eloho, a real estate consultant who works daily with clients navigating the highs and lows of land and housing costs. Now, one of the first things that always comes up when we talk about housing is the so-called deficit. You've probably heard figures like 17 million or even 22 million house deficit. Many people question the accuracy of Nigerians' housing deficit numbers, but how reliable are these numbers? Is the real problem a shortage of houses, or is it that the data doesn't just tell the story? But frankly, put it this way, we may have plenty of houses, but how many Nigerians can actually afford them? Let's hear directly more from him.
Many people doubt the accuracy actually of the housing deficit figures that we often hear in Nigeria. Sometimes, as you said, people say it's 17 million, sometimes people say it's 22 million. For the past 5 years, that have been the two figures that are quoted online or offline. But for me, the real issue is not just whether the numbers are accurate, but that there is a visible gap between available housing and affordable housing. Yes, the number might have reduced, but the fact is, are they affordable? Are they accessible by majority of Nigerians? That is the question we should be asking ourselves. We may have plenty of houses, but they are not accessible to the average Nigerians in terms of price, in terms of location, and financing. So, yes, like you also said, data accuracy is a challenge in every sector in Nigeria, even in our economy. Accuracy of data, or let me say data accuracy, is a challenge, and it's even giving us a lot of problems in Nigeria to be able to plan for the citizens because there is no accurate data. But all we need to do, that the deeper problem is affordable, or I mean affordability is the major problem as far as real estate, housing deficit is concerned. Yes, there are developers building here and there, but the question is, how many people can buy it? You say, just two, three, bungalows today are sold for 60 million, 50 million, 78 million. How many Nigerians can purchase a bungalow, two bedroom, three bedroom, four bedroom bungalow for above 50 million? For above 50 million, that is where the problem is. Developers are building, but the fact is, how many Nigerians can afford it? That's the question we'll be asking ourselves. So the affordability versus real demand. How many supply, what supply do we have, and how many what? How many real demand do we have from Nigerians? So I think the balancing between whether it is 17 million or 22 million is for us to look at the affordability by Nigerians.
But Hello looks at it from another angle. Take a listen.
So for me, I would say that it's more of a problem of shortage of houses because let's take for example a very good place like Lagos. Most persons do not really have good housing. Lagos has a very high population due to urbanization, and you go out, you see a lot of persons staying under the bridge, You see a lot of persons staying in houses that are not good enough. I went to see to get something and I saw some kind of funny house constructed. For me, that's not an ideal house. So that's already a pointer to the fact that there are a lot of housing shortage and a lot of persons are just making do with what's available. So it's more of a problem of shortage of houses because the data are already there.
What this really shows is that housing debate goes beyond numbers. Officially, Nigeria's housing deficit is estimated at about 28 million units, with experts saying the country requires 550 housing units to be built annually for 5.5 trillion naira over the next 10 years to tackle the severe housing shortage. Yet, fewer than 100,000 units are built annually. The result is in twofold. Homes exist, but they are priced far above the reach of average workers. And at the same time, rapid urban migration leaves millions in overcrowded or substandard housing. Even if the housing exists, access to housing finance is very tough in Nigeria compared to other countries. Without affordable credit, buying a home can feel impossible. And that brings us to the next hurdle, financing. What steps can help close this gap and make mortgage more affordable? Franklin breaks it all down. How many Nigerians today can buy a house for 50 million with 20% interest and repay in just 5 years?
When we compare it to other countries, Nigeria's mortgage system is still underdeveloped. Don't let us deceive ourselves. You talked about high interest rates, often even most time above 20%, 30%. So, and with that, short repayment periods and tough requirements make it also inaccessible to many. You know, somebody say, come and take a mortgage. You are buying a house of 50 million, and at the end of the day, plus the interest that you are paying even times two or times three of what you are buying. And at the end of the day, they will say mortgage is just 5 years. How many Nigerians today, with the multidimensional poverty around us, can buy a mortgage house for 5 years for over 50 million with over 20% interest or 30% interest? So to close this gap, I think we need a lower interest mortgage products through government intervention or specialized housing banks. This is what we need. And we also need a longer repayment period, something like between 50 to 25 years, not 5 to 10 years. Eh? How many people can pay such money? 50 million naira plus the interest within 5 to 10 years. Let there be repayment period that is longer, like 15 to 25 years. Also, the flexible financing models, like rent to own schemes or cooperative housing funds. If these steps are taken, home ownership can become realistic for middle and lower income Nigerians. Without this, it's not possible. It's not possible. Looking at the present economic situation of Nigeria, the economic situation is not easy. It's hard. So let government come in and solve this housing deficit as far as Nigeria is concerned. And one of the ways to doing it is to have a housing mortgage, a longer interest mortgage, that people can put into and they'll be able to purchase seamlessly.
Let's get Elo's perspective on this.
The first step to close this gap and to make mortgages more affordable is to plead for government involvement. Now, if we have a situation where the mortgage banks are fully funded and we have a well structured system such that middle income earners and low income earners, we have their data, we know how much they earn, we know where they stay, we know how long they've been working for a company. They can easily get loans to purchase lands, build their houses because the mortgage banks are fully financed. But in a situation where they are not properly financed, the little money they have, they give it to low income or middle income earners at probably with a percentage that these low income earners might not be able to afford. But in a situation where this mortgage bank rather is properly financed and we have a good structure such that the low income and middle income earners their data is well displayed, their data is accurate, they can get access to these funds.
Financing remains a major stumbling block. Mortgage penetration in Nigeria is less than 1% of GDP compared to over 30% in South Africa. Mortgage interest rates in Nigeria range between 15% to 25%, far higher than the global average. This rate makes it difficult for average Nigerians to afford monthly repayments, especially in a country where disposable income is already stretched thin. With over 60% of Nigerians living on less than $2 a day, the math simply doesn't just work. The system isn't designed for workers earning modest salaries, and that leaves millions locked out of formal housing. So, if mortgage doesn't work for most Nigerians, what about land itself? Let's talk about land ownership. What role should government play in reducing high construction costs? Franklin explained that developers are not to be blamed because the cost of cement, steel, and even land titles are the main problem. Let's hear directly from him.
When you look at it very well, you may not want to blame the developers because the cost of cement, the cost of steel, and the cost of land today is one of the biggest, barriers or problem. And government can step in this. But the fact is that even government, the allocation government are making to developers, the land they are selling to these people are costly. The title perfection and everything, go and look at it. Most of the government in Lagos, in Ogun, Oyo, in Abuja have increased, the amount of this document perfection. So I think what government needs to do is to subsidize, on building materials like cement, iron, roofing sheets, land grants, and serviced plots. So developers don't spend heavily on roads and drainage. Today, developers will construct road, developer will construct, drainages, developer will do this and that. Where are they going to get their money from? Also, public-private partnership with developers to build affordable housing estate at scale. This is what government need to do. Reduce the cost of land, reduce the cost of perfecting titles and every other encumbrances. Eh? So if these are in place, developers can sell at lower prices and more Nigerians can afford homes. Without this, many Nigerians will not still be able to afford homes because it is what they buy that they will sell. They can't buy a land, build a house for 50 million and you expect them to sell it for 40 million. So it's not possible. So government needs to come into real estate and see how they can subsidize some of these things so that developers can also bring down their prices. So I think that's one of the things that government can do to reducing the high construction.
Land remains one of the biggest orders in Nigeria's housing market. Getting proper papers is very slow, stressful, and often uncertain. Because of that, many people take risks with half-processed documents, while others simply avoid investing altogether. It's a system that frustrates both buyers and sellers and keeps the market from growing the way it should. So until the government intervenes, developers will keep passing these costs to buyers. But what about land values, especially in prime areas like Banana Island? That's where the gap between the wealthy and ordinary Nigerians shows up the most. Land prices in places like Banana Island keeps rising while ordinary Nigerians struggle. How does this imbalance affect investors' confidence? Elo pointed out that location matters. Banana Island is very secure, exclusive, and that makes it prime for high net worth individuals. Let's hear from Elo.
So the first thing that we need to take note of is, first of all, why is the cost of lands in places like Banana Island rising? The reasons are not far-fetched. Banana Island is located in Ikoyi, a high-brow area in Lagos State. And first of all, Banana Island has a very good security. It has restrained access. If you are not a resident of that place, you can't just get access there. And there are a very high level of security in Banana Island with CCTV cameras and all that, making it an ideal place for top high network individuals who want their security, who want to be sure of their security. So with that security, first of all, the caliber of people you find in Banana Island will be high network individuals. So when you get high network individuals in a particular place, of course, the price of land in such places will be very, very expensive. Number two, Banana Island has basic, wonderful infrastructures. You go to Banana Island, you see their you are marveled with state of the art infrastructures. Of course, with something like that, the price of landed properties in such places are going to be very expensive. And also stating the fact that Banana Island harbors Nigerians' most wealthiest individuals. Banana Island harbors good companies. So these factors already make it an highbrow area for high network individuals. So it is certainly, land prices there are certainly going to be expensive. How does this imbalance affect investors' confidence? For me, it shouldn't affect investors' confidence. It should only point to investors that location matters in real estate. It should only be a pointer to investors that wherever you buy your land, the location you buy your land has a great role to play in the value of the land.
Rising land prices in elite areas shouldn't discourage investors. Instead, it proves how much location drives value. For ordinary Nigerians, though, it deepens the inequality in access to land. So while Banana Highland sends a signal of security, it also underlines the need for broader housing solutions, which brings us to the final question. What policies or innovations can help Nigeria tackle its housing deficit sustainably? Franklin was clear. We must move from endless deficit debate to actual solutions. Yes, Franklin, with more details.
Looking ahead, Nigeria can tackle housing deficit sustainably through mass affordable housing schemes backed by government and private developers. Government must partner with private companies, developers, to see how price of houses can come down, and as such, Nigerians can afford them. Adoption of alternative building technologies. When you go abroad, you see a lot of alternative building that people can actually buy and live, such as modular homes. Nigeria needs to come up with a modular homes. House don't need to be too big. A lot of houses are too big today, such that a lot of Nigerians cannot afford. We have detachable, that you can buy modular homes that can solve the issue of house deficit in Nigeria. Those are the things we need to do, and we need to think outside the box to make sure that we have locally sourced innovations to reduce costs, and also transparent and administration system, has to come. Today you hear Omonile said, one land to 3 people, to 4 people, and as such, it's becoming difficult for people to be able to afford land, let alone building. And if this administration system is involved, reducing Omonile issues, double sales, and land disputes will be minimized. So if all these are considered, all these things will be stopped. Then also stronger housing finance structures, by creating more accessible mortgages and cooperative financing. We have NHF, we have mortgage banks and the rest. But how many of them are communicating to Nigerians on how an average person in Nigeria can afford home through what? Through affordable mortgage financing. So there must be a sporadic, explosive, communication, orientation on how Nigerians can benefit from all this, opportunity in mortgages. How many people are aware? And if they are aware, how will they go about it? So these are the things that government needs to do to make sure that, housing, affordability and accessibility, become something, very practical to Nigerians and they can afford. And with this, Nigerians can move from endless deficit debates. The endless deficit debate has been long. Every time we hear 17 million, 22 million, 30 million, no accurate data. But the fact is, my last comment will be that Nigerians, you know, must move from this endless deficit debate to actual solutions. And some of the solutions have been pointed, can be looked into by government and developers so that we can make housing affordable and we can reduce the housing deficit in Nigeria.
But Jacinta puts it more differently. If jobs and industries were spread across states, fewer people would flood into Lagos and housing pressures would ease. Let's hear more from her.
So the first thing for me is to create a balance. Create a balance. If these persons who are coming to Lagos have good job opportunities in their state, they wouldn't come to Lagos, trust me. So many persons, if they have good industries, good companies, if they are good standard of living in wherever they are coming from, they won't come. So I feel like first of all, these opportunities that are in Lagos should be spread in other states. These companies, these industries that are making people troop in from their states to Lagos State, if every state can have a reasonable level of urbanization as Lagos has, as Lagos does rather, then the influx of people coming into Lagos will decrease and the overpopulation would also decrease, and that will also solve the housing deficit. Because if you go to your village, if I go to my village, there are good houses that are affordable that people can stay in, because it's my village is not populated, but people leave your state rather, leave their state rather, and go to Lagos that's already overpopulated. So the population will also tell on the number of houses that are available for people to stay in. So the first thing that government should do is to work on each government of each state should work on the facilities, work on industries, develop their state such that opportunities are available for people to work and be comfortable in their states. The second policy that the government should make is the government should be intentional about the housing of its citizens, because the truth is the three basic needs of man are food, shelter, and clothing. So it means that these are the three basic things that a human needs to function. If someone does not stay in a good house, it's going to tell on the overall well-being and the person's productivity. If you've been in Lagos and you've ever been stranded, you will know that being stranded or not having a good roof over your head is going to affect your productivity, either as an employee or as an entrepreneur or a business person. So having a roof over your head, not just somewhere to lie down, having a good place over your head affects you in all ramifications, and that's why it is one of the basic needs of a man. So government should be intentional. Government should be very, very intentional about the housing of its citizens by, first of all, like I said, mortgage banks should be well funded. The system should be in such a way that the data of those who really need housing should be available. If you go abroad, if you go to developed countries, they have your data. They know when you stay, they have all your data. Although we've not gotten there, but if we can have something like that, such that we know that okay, this class of people need need good housing, then the government can channel their energy towards that. Then the third thing, like I said, is for government to invest in housing schemes. Government should build houses for citizens that cannot afford it, so that citizens might not pay the entire amount. Like I said, probably pay 50% or a particular percentage of the supposed amount that they are supposed to use in building the house.
The way forward will require both our policy and partnership, mass housing schemes, stronger mortgage reforms, and cheaper local alternatives for building materials are key. Countries like Kenya have experimented with government-backed housing funds, while in Ghana, developers are pushing for tax breaks on affordable projects. Nigeria, with an urban population, has no choice but to act otherwise. The deficit will only widen. So here is where the housing story leaves us. The deficit is not just about numbers, it's about access. Mortgage remains out of reach for most workers. Land titles and paperwork keep the system clogged. And the rising cost of materials, from cement to steel, is pushing home ownership further away. Unless government and private developers work together, affordable housing will remain a dream for millions. At the end of the day, the question is not just how many houses Nigeria builds, but how many Nigerians can actually live in them. I'm Olaitan Adebayo, and this is Market Square. Thank you for staying with me. See you on the next one.